How's it? Thanks for joining me. In the second video of the series, we looked at a number of generalized biases before moving on to more specific biases, especially negativity bias, which is one of the most common judging biases. We also looked at the impact of these biases on you, the photographer, and the way that bias will impact not only what you shoot, the way you shoot it, but also the way you edit your images. In this video, we will continue our journey, looking at other specific biases that have a large impact on us as photographers and us as photographic judges. Availability bias refers to the tendency to use information that we can quickly recall when evaluating an image, even if this photo is not the best example or representation of the topic or idea. Using this mental shortcut, we deem information we can more easily recall as valid and ignore alternative solutions or opinions. This is about placing greater value of information that comes to your mind quickly. Social media platforms like Instagram are dominated by certain styles of photography, such as vibrant sunsets, minimalist flat lays, or moody portraits. These images are widely seen and shared, making them more available to people's minds. Photographers may unconsciously mimic these popular styles, subjects, or techniques, believing they are more impactful, appealing, or effective simply because they've seen them succeed before, while neglecting more unique or experimental approaches, limiting creativity and leading to repetitive work or reliance on cliches. Photographs of certain regions often emphasize stereotypical imagery, such as deserts of the Middle East or Northern Territory, and skyscrapers of New York. Most people, when they think of Namibia, would think of this type of imagery because they are readily available to people's mental libraries, whereas this image of Namibia would not come to most people's minds. Availability bias can perpetuate narrow and oversimplified views of places, cultures, or communities, ignoring their diversity and complexity. Attentional bias in photography refers to the tendency of photographers, and even viewers, to focus on specific elements within a scene while overlooking others. This bias can shape how a subject, event, or environment is perceived, influencing the emotional and cognitive responses of the audience. It manifests in various ways throughout the photographic process, from shooting through post-processing to the interpretation of an image. For instance, a portrait photographer may instinctively focus on the subject's eyes while unconsciously ignoring the distractions in the background. But attentional bias can be useful. It can influence how a photographer shoots a scene. By using composition and framing, photographers can naturally draw the audience's attention to the focal point. A war photographer may focus on a grieving mother rather than the broader battlefield, evoking a more personal, emotional response. By using compositional techniques like the rule of thirds, symmetry, or leading lines, we can guide the viewer's focus toward the key subject. By employing a shallow depth of field to isolate the subject from its surroundings, or by adjustments enhancing colour, contrast. In specific areas, you can manipulate attention, cropping, removing, or cutting out distractions or unnecessary elements can refine your subject's focus. Darkening the edges of a photo or selectively brightening the subject can draw the viewer's eye inward to your subject, as can the use of vignetting or other lighting effects. However, there are ethical considerations to consider. Attentional bias can create misleading representations. A photographer may unintentionally or deliberately exclude context, leading to an incomplete or a distorted view of reality. By selectively focusing on extreme conditions such as poverty or crime may reinforce stereotypes about certain locations or groups. This is especially true and relevant in photojournalism, where images hold the power to shape public opinion. Attentional bias is a double-edged sword. It can enhance storytelling by guiding the viewer's eye, but it can also limit the narrative by excluding other meaningful elements. Recognizing and managing this bias allows photographers to create richer, more balanced images and helps viewers to engage with photographs in a deeper, more thoughtful and meaningful way. Functional fixedness bias refers to the cognitive tendency to see objects, tools, or concepts only in their traditional or intended uses, limiting creativity and problem solving due to mental rigidity. This bias is probably best explained by Karl Duncker in 1945, where you are given a box of tacks, a candle, and matches or lighter, and told to attach the candle to the wall so that the wax doesn't drip on the table. Most people struggle with this problem as they see the box only as a container for the tacks and not as a potential candle holder. In photography, this bias can restrict how photographers use their equipment, approach compositions, or interpret images. Overcoming functional fixedness allows photographers to think outside the box, leading to innovative and unexpected results. For instance, a photographer or judge that is limited to traditional photography where an image is realistic may not consider other, more creative approaches to photography. Another example is where some judges advise the use of the rule of thirds to the exclusion of other compositional tools, and may never consider the use of the Fibonacci spiral to compose an image. Remember Picasso's words, to learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. The halo effect bias, sometimes called the halo error, is a cognitive bias where the perception of one's positive trait influences how other traits are judged, often leading to an overly favorable or generalized impression of a person, company, brand, or product in one area to positively influence one's opinion or feelings in other areas. In photography, the halo effect can shape how viewers interpret images, how photographers choose subjects or styles, and how photographic work is evaluated overall. Your impression of a person influences how you feel or think about their portrait, as in these images. This especially applies to physical attractiveness, influencing how you rate the quality of a photo or product, and is usually used extensively in marketing. This bias is reflective of the judge's preferences, prejudices, ideology, aspirations, and social perception. A portrait of a conventionally attractive person might be perceived as a better photograph, even if the technical or compositional aspects are average. A photo of a famous landmark, such as the Eiffel Tower or the Taj Mahal, might be praised more highly because of the location's inherent appeal, regardless of the photograph's originality or quality. A heavily edited photo with vibrant colours and dramatic contrasts might be perceived as more impressive, even if the underlying composition or subject matter is weak. A photo of a beautiful golden hour lighting might be praised more than a photo of a flat or harsh lighting, even if the latter has stronger composition and storytelling. As judges, we need to be conscious of this effect to ensure we do not fall into the trap of judging from our likes and dislikes. In other words, judging from subjectivity. Expectation anchoring in photography refers to the cognitive bias where initial impressions or preconceived expectations strongly influence how a photograph is perceived or evaluated. This anchor serves as a reference point, shaping the viewer's interpretation and sometimes limiting their ability to see the image objectively or in its entirety. For photographers, it can also affect creative decisions by setting self-imposed constraints based upon expected outcomes. When a judge bypasses proper analysis of an image and relies on the frivolous expectation anchors, such as intuitive liking it, this is where favoritism of an image occurs. The judge may put up a mental block, such as liking a pin-sharp reality or scientific image in preference to a softly focused artistic image, discounting these images as less real. In this case, the expectations of the judge are higher for the scientific type of image, where it is perceived to be better than others, when that might not really be the case. A conventional sunset image might be perceived as a good image because it is familiar, whereas a painterly effect may not be appreciated by the judge. A photographic image of an iconic location, such as Uluru, is often judged against iconic, widely recognized images of the same subject. Viewers expect a certain level of grandeur and aesthetic, which becomes the anchor for their evaluation. Photographers might feel constrained and pressured to conform to these expectations, avoiding unique or unconventional interpretations that deviate from the standard. A street photograph is expected to feature candid, raw, or gritty moments, while a landscape photograph is anticipated to showcase natural beauty or serenity. If an image does not meet these genre-specific expectations, viewers may dismiss its value, even if it's technically or artistically strong. As judges and photographers, we need to be exploring our creativity by challenging our conventions and expectations. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is a cognitive bias in which people often misinterpret their ability. People with low ability, knowledge, or expertise in a specific area can overestimate their own competence, while those with high competence may underestimate their relative ability. I witnessed this phenomenon as a manager when reviewing staff self-appraisals. This phenomenon was first described by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999. The Dunning-Kruger effect is often observed in photography, particularly in how individuals assess their skill and expertise in this art form. Here's how it may manifest and affect photographers at various stages. Initial enthusiasm or novice overconfidence. A beginner picks up a camera and quickly learns the basics, for example, using automatic settings and basic composition. They feel a surge of confidence, believing they've mastered photography because they can produce aesthetically pleasing images. Overconfidence often leads them to underestimate such complexities as lighting, editing, storytelling, and advanced techniques. A new photographer may post a heavily edited photo online and proclaim themselves a professional, unaware of technical or artistic flaws or nuances. Realization of limitations, often called the Valley of Despair. As they delve deeper into their craft, photographers encounter challenges like manual settings, understanding light, or achieving consistent results. This stage is marked by a sharp drop in confidence as they recognize how much they don't know. Many photographers feel overwhelmed and may consider quitting at this stage. Gradual improvement or climbing the slope of insight. Through practice, education, and experience, photographers start mastering more advanced techniques. They gain a realistic understanding of their strengths and weaknesses, leading to a balanced confidence level. They begin experimenting with other techniques such as off-camera flash, mastering post-processing, and developing a unique style. Expertise and humility, or the plateau of sustainability. At this stage, photographers have a deep understanding of their craft and recognize its vastness. They are confident in their skills, but humble, aware that there's always more to learn. Experts often share their knowledge, mentor others, and continually push creative boundaries. A seasoned photographer embraces constructive criticism, continuously seeks inspiration, and contributes to the photographic community. Superficial bias in photography refers to the tendency to judge an image based primarily on its surface-level attributes, such as aesthetic appeal, dramatic lighting, or immediate emotional impact, rather than considering the deeper aspects like context, narrative, or meaning. This bias can influence both photographers and viewers, often prioritizing visual beauty or sensationalism over substance and storytelling. Superficial bias is also known as unconscious bias, where we are more comfortable with things we know and therefore favor, as in this image of Cradle Mountain. Superficial bias tends towards convention, the tried and true, but can minimize the exploration of image making in other kinds of photographs. While the tried and true can make quality images, they may be cliches that are not contributed to furthering our photographic understanding or to the wealth of memorable imagery. Being open-minded when judging something new is a measure of a quality judge. A trendy style, such as desaturated tones or symmetrical compositions, may receive more attention simply because it aligns with current photographic fads. Photos that break away from trends or experiment with unique approaches may be overlooked in favor of more fashionable images. A photo with sharp focus, clean lines, and balanced exposure may be deemed superior to a technically imperfect image, even if the latter has stronger emotional or narrative content. This bias can undervalue creative risks or raw, authentic moments that don't adhere to technical standards. In this, the third video of the series, we have seen how the various biases can have a profound effect upon us as photographers, allowing us to skew or manipulate the images merely by the way in which we create our photographs. We have also seen how biases can skew the judging process by allowing us to miss or overlook important images or other aspects within the image based upon our own likes and dislikes. A good judge should be able to look past these biases to understand the image itself. In the next video, we will look at the final specific biases that affect us as photographers and judges. We will also look at some strategies not to overcome but to minimize our biases. Until next time, bye.